Hi, everyone. Today's topic is what intelligence, and the textbook has a lot to say about this. But anyway, what is intelligence? And then, of course, what it is heavily linked to what IQ test. Now, I'm going to use IQ to represent intelligence. It's just a short form of saying that, okay? And you will find that, but in a lot of textbooks, they will do this. Okay, IQ and intelligence used interchangeably. And even though IQ, look at this one here. This is my document camera. This is my whiteboard. Okay, IQ actually we have a specific formula for IQ. Now, I'm not going to say a lot about this formula. It's called IQ. Is called intelligence quotient. Okay, that is what mental age over chronological age times 100. Okay, times 100. So now I will talk a little bit more about IQ, so that what you have an idea how high is high, how low is low. Is that good? All right. Okay. Now, what intelligence is a construct which is something we infer from observable behavior. Therefore, what this is a construct. You just like the topics you have selected for your assignments. Okay? They are all called construct. All right. So what constitutes intelligence? In study after study, moderate or high positive correlations are found among all the different tests that are designed to measure separate intellectual abilities, like achievement test, aptitude test, that type of thing. So psychologists are somehow forced to assume a unifying trait called what? IQ, or intelligence. So actually, there is no one definition of intelligence. Unfortunately, there are as many definitions of IQ as there are psychologists studying it. Okay? Now, some of the more common definitions include such considerations as the ability to do the following: profit from experience, solve problems, adjust and relate to one's environment, think abstractly, and perceive relationships. Okay, we will talk more about these. Okay, behave more competently and effectively, and the ability to learn. So IQ is not just one kind of ability or talent, but is rather a combination of many abilities or components that compile the package we label intelligence. Okay? Now, I will talk more about this later on, so that you have a better understanding of what the term intelligence and what psychologists have done with it. Okay? Now, say, although two people might have similar IQ scores. So IQ scores were pertain to what IQ test scores. Okay, they might have quite different intellectual abilities. Okay? We will discuss this later on. All right. Now, so one thing seems certain: wherever learning is, intelligence is too. Okay? All right. So let us say let's take a look at what all this is. Now, before I do that, I would like you to know of one publication that has been quoted from time to time, even at this point in time. Okay, a 1969 article written by Arthur Jensen, published in the Harvard Educational Review. Okay, here Arthur Jensen, after reviewing hundreds of publications on IQ, he came up with three conclusions in general. Okay, Peter Charles has summarized it. That between 50 to 80% of IQ is attributable to heredity. That means what? That means if you are born smart or you are born stupid, that type of thing. Okay, of course you will know later on it's absolutely absolutely incorrect. I tend to use the term BS. Okay, but anyway, contemporary educational programs have been tried and they have failed. So here he referred to say something like have you heard of it? The Head Start program. It is to open up schools for young say 3 years old Black children. And I will talk a little bit more about the intelligence score, the IQ scores for Black, for white, and for Asian later on. So educators, this one is not good. Okay, educators should redesign the curriculum to take advantage of the particular strength of each racial group. You see here, he is referring to what different racial groups have they have differential IQ scores. Now, this is pretty racial oriented. Okay, and then you will see later on is that all three conclusions are incorrect. And but then because of his paper, because of his name, he's a pretty good name. Okay, damage has been done and perhaps done for a long time to come. But anyway, so let's take a look at some viewpoints of the nature of intelligence so that you have a better understanding of intelligence. And then most of all is that how that you should, having all this knowledge, you are better equipped to evaluate anything about IQ, and also in positive psychology, the role intelligence plays, okay, in in assessing characters, in assessing the importance of certain issues. Okay, all right. Let's take a look at Charles Spearman in 1927. So a lot of IQ studies have been were established very early. Okay, in 1927, Charles Spearman, a very famous psychometrician. Okay, very famous psychometrician. He postulated only two factors. Okay, a general factor and a specific factor. Specific factor means, for example, you are very good in music, but you're poor in reading. So this is specific intelligence associated with, say, mathematics associated with music. Right? Now, general intelligence means that whatever you do, you will have to draw upon from this pool that you have. Okay, so that's a very simplistic look at intelligence. All right, as you see, as we move on, you see how psychologists develop their views on intelligence. Thorndike, remember we discussed Thorndike. He performed he's the behaviorism. Remember John Watson and then Thorndike and Skinner. Right? Thorndike performed a lot of experiments using cat, while Skinner used rats. Okay, and of course John Watson also used rats. Now look at him, Edward Thorndike. Edward Thorndike. There are, by the way, there are several Thorndikes. There are quite a good number of Thorndikes in measurement, and of course, also in behaviorism. Anyway, he distinguished three types of thinking: concrete thinking, as in Piaget's concrete operational stage. Okay? Social. Now, take a look at this here. Social is here the first time social intelligence was mentioned. Okay? As you will see later on, that social intelligence is almost one of the big pillars of emotional intelligence, also called EQ, because of IQ they have emotional quotient, but there is no such thing as emotional quotient. Okay, now there is, but then it is basically EQ is used to refer to emotional intelligence, or EI, and abstract thinking, like what here you are referring to say a hypothesis. Hypothesis is abstract, is that right? So to be able to do abstract thinking, one must have a symbolic representation of the thing. So here we are dealing with say ideas, that type of thing. So it is it is beyond concrete operational stage. It is Piaget formal operation, and we can engage in abstract thinking. All right. Okay. Thurston, another famous psychometrician, very famous. He was the first person to develop say IQ, or intelligence, consists of 7 primary abilities. 7. As you will see, look at the resemblance of this and Howard Gardner, 1983. Okay, 1983, many years later on. Okay, and close to 40 some years later on, Howard Gardner, famous psychologist. Okay, now take a look here. He is considered to be the pioneer in multiple intelligence. Space factor. What is space factor? Space factor is the ability to visualize objects in space. For instance, most of you know how to drive, is that right? Most of you know how to drive. So when you're driving on a one lane, I mean, double lane, one here, another one coming here. So this, my big mic, look at this, Yeti. And when you do this here, you are on a one lane highway, and a big truck, 18 wheelers in front of you, slowly driving, and you have to pass it. But then you have oncoming vehicles. So if you are high in space factor, you could have visualized objects in space accurately. Then you could judge it that, okay, can I pass the truck given that a vehicle is now approaching me from afar? So you would have, okay, you judge that, okay, I should be able to do that. Okay? I would have to speed up, and how long would it take me to overtake the truck before being hit by the oncoming vehicle? this is an example of space factor, all right? So, but then what? Of course, here, not all intelligent people are well equipped in space factor. Okay, some intelligent people have trouble parking what? Parking a car, right? Just what? When the pandemic is over, you spend some time in the what? In the parking lot close to the building, close to some building. Most of the professors park there, and you will laugh. Some professors, oh my goodness, they, they really have a lot of difficulties in parking the car into the space. Either it's going like this, or far from the curb, type of thing. Okay, so you will laugh. Okay, but they are very intelligent people. Okay, so you see here, that is what called the specific Charles Spearman specific factor. Is that right? So some people are very strong. They have a lot in the general factors, but they may be lacking in somewhat specific areas. Okay? Now, and what the number factor, of course, the ability to manipulate numbers, as in balancing a checkbook or making change, that type of thing, or doing, well, of course, doing mathematics, okay, statistics. All right, verbal comprehension, the ability to read what faster, have large vocabularies, and naturally enough seem to understand more of what they read. Okay, so you know what that is. Okay, and word fluency, the ability to be adept at using words. So this is at the creativity level. Is that right? So what? Authors, book authors, they are fluent in terms of this, right? Memory ability to memorize. So oddly enough, what the ability to memorize is not necessarily related to other mental abilities. That is what those with good memories may or may not be blessed with other primary abilities. Inductive reasoning. What is inductive reasoning? Okay, let me switch to the board, the whiteboard. All right. Now, let's say here, this is a general. Okay, general principle. And from general principle, we could deduce a lot of, say, specific example. So specific example 1, specific example, say 2, this is 3, 4, and so on. Okay, and so on. Now, a lot of time in high school, primary school, high school, teachers most of the time will do this here. Deductive reasoning or deductive learning. So the direction is from what? From the general to the specifics. This is called deductive reasoning. Now, so learning the general principle and then be able to understand all the specific examples, this is called deductive reasoning. Okay? Now here, inductive reasoning, the direction of is from specifics to the governing principle, to the general principle. That is to say, from specifics to general. That is to say, you learn all the examples, specific cases or specific examples, and you could induce the general principle. Now, you must have encountered the situation here that it is a lot easier to go from the top down, from the general to the specific, but it is pretty difficult the other way around, for inductive, like from specifics to the general principle. For example, mathematical induction. How many of you have taken a course in mathematical induction? It is killing. It almost killed me. Okay, it is not easy at all. Okay, very difficult. Okay, I have to. Okay, that's inductive reasoning. Perceptual speed. The ability to identify objects quickly. Now, those high in this ability can understand more easily than most others. Say, example, some people could understand entire sentences without having to examine each word carefully, and are more able to comprehend the entire paragraph without looking microscopically at each sentence. Now, this is the situation where how many of you have learned speed reading? Speed reading. Now you must you have to train yourself. Peter Chow knows the principle, the general principle of speed reading, and I have trained myself to do that. Let me share with you this. In newspapers, you know that newspapers they don't use long say this is the width of the newspaper. They will not publish an article like from left to right like this long, or right here, from here to here to here. They won't do that. They will cut it up a small section. It goes the paragraph goes like this, and then another small section, this and this. Why do they do that? Because then to facilitate people to increase the perceptual speed, that is to say, you do not read from one sentence to the other, that type of one sentence to the other. You don't do that. You read a block. See, you read a block, and then a block, and then a block, and then the next block. That's speed reading. And of course, there are other specific, to say you could skim adjective clauses, noun clauses, and you still get the meaning. That type of thing. Anyway, so the using a very narrow width of printing. See, a block here, a block here, a block here. And that will increase our perceptual speed. Okay? All right, Guilford. Now take a look at Guilford. Guilford. At first he mentioned three basic dimensions. Say 5 mental operations, 4 contents, 6 products. And later on, he increased it to 5, 6, and later on even more. Okay, let me show you this. Okay, now don't pay too much attention trying to understand everything here. It will drive you insane. Okay, But what I'm trying to show you is that what Guilford, he has proved the existence. Here you have 150 cells. Okay, this is a cell. Okay, this is one cell, two cell, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, here's another cell here. There are 150. Guilford, using factor analysis, those of you who have taken what design 2 with me, you will understand what does that mean. Okay, Guilford, using factor analysis, he could prove the existence of 80 of them. Now here it is not important which ones that Guilford has proved. The idea is that intelligence is considered by Guilford and by a lot of people to be very complicated. Is that right? Very complicated. So let's not try to be very simplistic about it and make a generalization that is quite inappropriate. Okay, so the positive comments from psychologists about this is the fact that it alerts us, this diagram and Guilford's research alerts us to the enormous complexity of human intelligence. It also helps us see that in relatively complex forms of learning, okay, such as problem solving, several combinations of abilities might be required, okay, depending on the nature of the problem for us to achieve a solution. Now, it also highlights differences between convergent and divergent thinking. Okay, convergent, inductive reasoning. Divergent is you could say is deductive reasoning. Okay, but then of course here, convergent and divergent thinking is that from divergent, you have something here. This is a concept. Okay, this concept is linked to horizontally linked to other concepts. Say concept 1, concept 2, concept 1, 3. Okay, you diversify. Okay, and then convergent means this is convergent. Okay, you have you have idea 1, idea 2, 3, 4, and then they all point to a general principle. You arrive at this general principle. This is called convergent thinking. Okay, so it highlights here. It highlights differences between convergent and divergent thinking, which has helped us to better understand some of the basic cognitive differences between somewhat average and very bright students. Okay, very bright students, they're able to do this here, divergent thinking. Okay, but that does not mean they are better. Okay, but they are brighter. And I will talk about this later on. Okay, by bright, what does it mean by bright? Most of the time, in the general public, human beings are kind of misguided, tend to think that someone is fast, he or she must be bright. Let's see. Okay, that may not be true. All right. So, this model has proven to be too complex. All right. Look at this. Oh my goodness, this is too complex to be of much help. Okay, as a guide for predicting cognitive outcomes or planning instructional activities. See, look at it. How do you plan? Okay, to satisfy all these? No. Here, this 150, now 180 mental abilities that are theoretically possible, but they are not as separate as Guilford believed, like this one is independent of the rest of them. No. Research has consistently found many significant positive correlations among all of this here, okay, suggesting that they are overlapping abilities, not separate entities. So that means is this model wrong? It is complicated, but then they are not that independent. Okay, so but then it is good to know this because it points to the fact that intelligence is highly complicated. Okay, all right. Take a look at the next one. Howard Gardner, 1983, and he is at an old age. He's still conducting research. Okay, conducting research, all right, on intelligence. Now, look at this here. 1987 intelligences. He was the first one to use the plural form of intelligence. You know that intelligence is not countable. It is not a countable thing. So you don't have intelligence. Is that right? It's just like patience. Do you have patience so that you don't act too quickly? Okay, like patience does not have a plural form, and similarly, intelligence was not supposed to have a plural. But then Howard Gardner said, no, 7 intelligences. Why did he do that? Well, that is just to show that there are different entities associated with the term intelligence. And remember, there are as many psychologists studying intelligence. There are as many definitions as there are psychologists studying intelligence. All right, so it is a very very confusing field. All right, so Gardner believed that IQ, far from being a unitary power of the mind, consists of a set of mental abilities he likes to call intelligences. As he called them, that not only manifest themselves independently, but probably also spring from distinct areas of the brain, because he studied that. Okay? So Gardner bases his notion of separate abilities in part on evidence that brain damage, say from a stroke, often interferes with functioning in one area, such as language. I cannot speak, but does not affect functioning in other areas. You still play music, play guitar, fiddle, Also, individuals may excel in one of those 7 areas here, okay, but have no remarkable abilities in the other area. Say one area may excel in one area, but then not good here or here, right? So therefore Gardner was think, well, it may be due to different brain functions. Okay, so recent evidence linking musical and spatial abilities has prompted psychologists to consider that there may be connections among the intelligences. That means they are they are not as separate as they same. All right, so Gardner hypothesized at first 7 intelligences, and now of course there are more, 8 and even 9. Okay, I will come to that a little bit later on. All right, linguistic, the ability to understand and use words. All right, so that is very similar, very similar to what? Similar to where that here, verbal and word. Okay, and logical mathematical. I know a lot of students, you hate this, okay? Because Peter Chow is what? Is a psychometrician. I'm also an applied statistician, okay? And of course, I've also published papers in educational psychology. Anyway, so logical mathematical, the ability to reason abstractly, see, this is what abstract, see, Thorndike, okay, abstractly imagine transformation and modifications of what one sees and recreate what visual experiences from memory, that type of thing. Okay, but for example, we could manipulate an object in our mind. Okay, turn it this way, what it looks like, that type of thing. Okay, that type of thing. Music. This is the first time music is included in what? Intelligence. Musical intelligence. The ability to recognize what variations of tones and pitch and the capacity to combine tones to create new sounds. Okay? So you see here, Gardner is the first one to include musical abilities into his definition of intelligence. And this is important because research studies have indicated to us that people good in music, they're likely to be good in math, analytical skill, okay? That type of thing. And there are developmental psychologists promoting what? Let the baby listen to music all day long, but not heavy metal. That type of thing, okay? Anyway, bodily kinesthetic. Bodily kinesthetic is the ability to use one's body and muscle structure in a coordinated planned way. For example, catching a falling paper in the air. Say if I drop this paper, see, this is not very good. The camera, because of my background, okay, if I float it in the air, are you quick enough hand coordination to catch it? Okay, remember my example in in baseball, soccer, a corner kick, that type of thing, right? So this is bodily kinesthetic, intelligence. How well you can move your body, okay, to avoid what a rock was thrown at you, that type of thing. Okay, you all right? So interpersonal intelligence, look at this here. Interpersonal intelligence is the ability to deal effectively with others. It's a very important, as you will see later on, we'll talk about emotional intelligence. I will expand on this. Okay, intrapersonal. Inter means between people. Intra means within you. Okay, how much do you know about yourself? Okay, how much do you understand your own behavior? Okay, how much do you understand your own strengths, your weaknesses, how much you could tolerate? Okay, how many nights you could go without sleeping and you could still function well, type of thing, that type of thing. So now Remember Carl Rogers? Carl Rogers, he was very serious in trying to understand the true self. Okay, of course, positive psychology talks about the true self. Who are you? Okay, who are you now? The idea is that you see in should I say psychology, normal psychology in general, say personality, especially if you have taken a course in personality, you realize that unfortunately a lot of people they won't let you know their true self. Okay, how do they say interpersonal intelligence? How do they interact with people? They project an image they thought they ought to have, and they behave like this image. So of course the person has to be consciously manipulating this image, okay, to fit a textbook definition of fit whatever, okay, that type of thing. Okay, so therefore we know that personality measurements are mostly unreliable. A lot of personality tests, psychological personality tests, they have very low reliability. Okay, because of this here, we human beings, we are great pretenders. Okay? Have you heard of the song "The Great Pretender" by the Platter? Back in the 60s, a beautiful song. Okay, and human beings, we are accomplished liars, as you know what I mean. Okay, now then Then Howard Gardner, actually he sent me professor teaching measurement, sent them his research, okay, and he just maybe 10 years ago he sent me something. He said, naturalist, how well do we understand our environment? This is part of what he considers it to be part of human intelligence. Okay, and of course now he has moved on to identify more. Okay, but then let's not be concerned with that. Now, for example, naturalist means we care about our environment, and also here now that climate change has inflicted a lot of problems on Earth. Okay, so people urges people the United Nations urges countries to pay attention to carbon dioxide emission. So we are likely, the car you are driving at this point, they burn gasoline. Is that right? And I think very soon all of these internal combustion engines will be replaced by EV, electric vehicle. And I have just heard Ferrari, the Italian super sports car, Ferrari will cease to produce internal combustion engines starting next year, I believe. So all of the vehicles will be electric. And you know that say Tesla electric vehicle. Tesla is very fast. Okay, it's very fast, faster than a lot of gasoline engines. Okay, gasoline engine powered sport cars. Okay, it is fully electric, and of course Tesla the top model, very fast and expensive. It could go from 0 to 100 kilometers in 4 point some seconds. Right? So this is crazy, isn't it? Anyway, and if you have watched Fast and Furious, then there are many films now, 9, is that right? Yeah, Peter John has watched every one of them. Okay, but anyway, in the film, it always mentions, especially the first several, a 10-second car, even in FF9, okay, towards the end. Uh, what, uh, what is his name? Tom, okay? Tom Torito, he handed the key to his younger brother. Okay, here's the 10-second car. The 10 seconds is not from 0 to 100, the quarter mile. Okay, quarter mile. I wish I had the 10-second car. Okay, all right. So now look at this here. Look at all this here. 7 intelligence or 8 now, including naturalists. Okay, Gardner admits that what the mental abilities most valued in the Western world are what? These two, linguistic and logical mathematical. Is that right? Look at what all the standardized test. And if you want to work for Microsoft, you know, you have to write a standardized test. Okay, Microsoft will develop its own standardized test, okay, to test our abilities in analytical thinking and of course math. Okay, math. And if you want to get into graduate studies in psychology, you would have to write GRE, the graduate record exam, which consists of 2 parts. Okay, consists of verbal intelligence, verbal, and logical mathematical. These two. So logical mathematical is what analytical skills basically, and of course some math. Okay. Now, so in the West, we treasure these two. Okay, treasure these two. But then Howard Gardner notes, however, that the importance of the 7 intelligences has shifted over time and varies from culture to culture. That is to say, our definition of IQ may not be suitable in another culture. Right? Let's say in a hunting society example, it is more important to be what? To be extremely here? Body static. Okay? More important to have extremely good control of your body. Okay? Body static and know your way around spatial intelligence than to add, subtract, multiplication quickly. All right? Now, imagine put a professor in the middle of the jungle, okay? And most of them will not be able to find a way out. Okay, because well, knowing you have good linguistic power, good logical mathematical, but without spatial and body kinesthetic, you're not going to get out of the jungle alive. Okay, probably be eaten by some hungry animals. Okay, social factors also have a place in determining which aspect of intelligence is desirable. For example, in the West, we treasure individualism. Is that right? We treasure individualism. In the Far East, say in Japan, Japan is what? It is what? It is group-oriented society. Okay, you cannot be individualistic in Japan. Now, let me give you an example. In the West, if you discover a cure for COVID-19, your name will be attached to your creation. But in Japan, let's say you belong to a group because it's group oriented. Even though you single-handedly created that drug for COVID-19, an excellent drug, you cannot claim that I do this, I created it. No, your group created it. You understand what I'm trying to say? No. So if you a lot of Japanese housewives, they complain, that, well, not complain, they tell us that, well, if next door's husband comes home early every night, you can safely assume that, well, he will soon be an outcast. Because most Japanese men after work, they go to drink with their colleagues and they sing karaoke. They come home late. This is expected of them. So that is because it is a group-oriented society, right? So Gardner furthermore speculates that linguistic abilities will become even less important in school. Now, that's what he predicted in the 80s. Okay, will be even less important in schools in the near future, as logical mathematical abilities become more important for computer programming. Now, this has become true, is that right? Nowadays, it is far more important for us to know what computers, okay, and linguistics. Even though you may not be able to speak Japanese, but then if you speak to your phone, where's my phone? If you speak to your phone, the phone will translate English into Japanese, Korean, right? Whatever, Spanish, okay? The phone, artificial intelligence now is it is advancing so quickly and so amazingly, is that right? All right, now, so Gardner's speculation has turned out to be exactly correct, is that right? The point is that although both logical, mathematical, and linguistic intelligences are important, it will not always be that way. Okay, even at the present time, okay, both are important. But then Gardner mentioned Gardner alerts us to the fact that we need to be sensitive to the fact that what we need to keep in mind as we plan curricula and teach students. So we need to get ahead of the trend, is that right? See the trend and then get ahead of the current situation. All right? Sternberg. Take a look at Sternberg. Robert Sternberg, he was the president of American Psychological Association, I think a decade ago. Okay, he is a professor from Stanford University. Okay, he publishes a lot of papers. Now, I know quite a good number of students from Stanford, psychology program. They told me in no uncertain terms that Robert Sternberg is an excellent researcher, but he is quite lousy in his teaching. That's what I heard, okay? And you mentioned the previous sentence to anyone else, you die, okay? Anyway, so look at Sternberg. Sternberg has offered a view of mental abilities that questions the common assumption. I mentioned this: smart is fast, or if you're fast, you're considered to be smart. We do that almost in all cultures. We have this assumption. Well, this assumption actually underlies the overwhelming majority of IQ and aptitude tests. Okay, but it's one that overlooks the evidence suggesting that smartness is not always associated with quickness. All right, so let's take a look here now. Let me, like there are two modes of thinking. One mode is called the impulsive mode. Impulsive mode means the following. Okay, a question is asked, and you want to answer that question as soon as possible. The faster you could do that, okay, you are more intelligent. At least this is the assumption. Okay. Another mode of thinking, reasoning or thinking is called what? It's called what is it called? Impulsive, reflective. Reflective. That means what? That means you could what? You take it slow. You think about it. You reason it in your mind, and then what? Then you produce the solution. Okay, so you're slow. You're slow, but then what? You could what? Come up with a better solution than those obtained from impulsive reasoning or impulsive mode of thinking. All right. So Sternberg he mentioned it is well documented that a reflective rather than an impulsive style of problem solving tends to be associated with higher ability to solve problems. And yet, the vast majority of IQ tests are timed. They're all timed, okay? Which forces the taker into an impulsive mode. Okay? Now, this is true, right? Now, research suggests the following, that intelligent persons tend to spend relatively more time than less intelligent person in global higher order planning, and less time on local local problem specific planning. Okay, so higher order planning, like what the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, what they do. The local specific is just like workers along the assembly line, right? So now, and actually, Sternberg has published several papers pointing to the fact that when individuals were free to spend as long as they like solving insight problems, are quite high correlations. Say 0.75 it is high. Okay, it is high. Was found between time spent on the problems and measured IQ. Okay, so the longer they spend on the problem, and then they came up with the solution, the higher their IQ score. Okay? All right. So these findings suggest that more able individuals do not easily give up when confronted with problems because kind of reflective thinking. So and that was so Sternberg came to the conclusion that persistence and involvement are highly related not only to successful outcomes, but also to higher IQ. You don't ever give up, okay? Okay, I used to put this thing. I used to point to the screen, but you see my screen here, is that right? You don't see my finger pointing. Anyway, I used to put this thing here in front of my door. But every time I do that, people, they love it. They just liberate it from my door every time. After I don't know, after a dozen times, I kind of shrink it, put it in the slot that I could slip something in so that they could not take it. Okay. Wow, you know what? They kind of cranked open the thing, destroyed it, and then took that little piece of the thing here. Oh my goodness, they could have downloaded it from, I don't know whether you could download it. I haven't seen it in the web, okay? But then anyway, this is a good one. Is that you never give up, okay? You persist, okay? You persist. Okay, let's take a look at Sternberg's triadic theory of intelligence. Componential intelligence, okay, ability to think abstractly, process information effectively. So what is this here? That means what here? Componential intelligence means what? People high with what is componential intelligence, they are very good in what? In analytical skills. All right. They could what? They could think. They could reason logically. They could think analytically, and they could easily identify connections among ideas. Okay, and to see various aspects or components of a problem. Okay, so it is the type of intelligence typically associated with people who are good who could do well on achievement test, IQ test. Okay, say people who are good in multiple choice, true false. Okay, and they are good at critiquing and analyzing arguments. Okay, so that is what most of the time school teaches us how to do this. All right, so that's componential intelligence, experiential intelligence. So here, this is that part of mental ability associated with a person's capacity to continue separate or disparate experiences in insightful way. Okay. Now, people high in this type of IQ may not have the best test scores, but they are able to come up with a creative and ingenious ways to see new combinations and possibilities in the environment, in the world around them. Okay. Now, so let's take a look here. There are Sternberg concluded that this experiential intelligence has three components, okay, or three types of insight. One is called selective encoding. Okay. Okay. So what is it here? It's the ability to focus on critical information. Okay. For example, I'll give you an example. If the machine that is designed to pick up tomatoes, okay, actually ruin the tomatoes, no matter how the machine is tweaked. Okay? No, then let's say you have the machine, you go out and pick tomatoes, all right, to pick tomatoes, and you come back, how come tomatoes, most of them ruined? Okay, so it's okay, I will tweak the machine so that it will not ruin the tomatoes. Okay, spend a lot of time tweaking it, changing some part, then you come back with ruined tomatoes. I said, my goodness, how could that be? Okay, so I'm gonna retweak the machine. So you work hard on changing the machine part so that hopefully it will not do that, and it comes back with ruined tomato. Now, so this is the idea, is that no matter how hard, how the machine is tweaked, okay, you still have ruined tomatoes. So the idea now here is selective encoding is perhaps one should refocus their attention to see if the type of tomatoes one plants has very soft skin. If that is the case, perhaps you should change the type of tomatoes. But no, tomato, not potatoes, tomatoes, is that right? So that is to shift the focus. Okay? So you expand your horizon a little bit wider. Or another idea here is that when you are operating at this horizon, now I will use this example later on in meditation, a lot of scenarios. If you could jump, or you work hard so that you operate at a higher level, at a higher horizon, you will see everything here. Is that right? You will see everything here. So it is idea that we should have selective encoding. We should, if one does not work, one idea does not work, you shift your focus to a different aspect. Okay. The second one is selective combination. Now, selective combination involves putting facts together to get a big picture. Okay, to recombine components to form something new. Now, I'll give you an example. It is known that Benjamin Franklin, the great inventor, he to avoid changing one pair of spectacles, glasses, to another one here. When you grow older, your lens, your lenses for you to see far away, they don't work with let's say the menu in a restaurant. Okay, so you see old folk, they have to do this, and then they put on, and they do this, and do this. Is that right? Because so at that time here, there's no such thing as progressive lens. Okay, so Benjamin Franklin, he got tired of changing from one pair of spectacles to another. He cut the lenses of each pair in half and then stuck them together. So, those eyeglasses, the lens here with the line in the middle. Okay, we still have that. Okay, the top half is to see things afar. The bottom half is to read. Okay, so this is the the world's first bifocal. Right? So that's called selective combination. You got it? So then the last one is selective comparison. Steinberg mentioned that the ability to see an old thing in a new way, or a new thing in a new way. Okay? No. Wind has been blowing dust around for millennia. Okay? But it was not until 1901 that Charles Booth, the British, thought of using wind in reverse, creating the first vacuum cleaner. Right? That is ingenious, is that right? So experiential intelligence then is the capacity to not only make sense of our experiences, but also to reorder, recombine, and reinterpret our experiences in new and possibly creative ways. Right? Okay. The final one, the third one, contextual intelligence is the type of IQ people use in the context of their external world. Uh, it is what? It is something the school has never taught you. Okay? It is one practical what? Practical intelligence, or sometimes we call it common sense. Common sense. That is to say what? It could be loosely defined as what things they never teach you in school. So you see what Stanford realizes that there are a lot of people who do not particularly who do not do particularly well on test, but then they are extremely intelligent in a practical sense. Now, see what most of the millionaires, billionaires, business people, a lot of them have no university degrees. Look at Bill Gates. Bill Gates was accepted to Harvard, but he was so impatient with those courses. He quit university. Okay, he quit university, right? Look at a lot of them. Okay, a lot of them, they are they don't have a degree, but yet they are so successful. All right. So we have a lot of these people. Okay. Now, so this kind of the contextual intelligence, it does not fit into the academic world. It is IQ, and as such, it should be considered. We should consider it seriously. So this is the new dimension. Okay, no one has formally mentioned. Okay, so to measure these new dimensions of mental skill, okay, test according to Sternberg, okay, should be could be devised through the use of problems that require little in the way of prior knowledge. You don't have prior knowledge, but require they require insight. Okay. Now, Sternberg, two very good examples he gave is that if you have both black and white socks in your drawer mixed in a ratio of 4 to 5 or 3 to 5, okay, how many socks will you have to take out to make sure you have a pair of the same color? Well, you see here, some people will be bothered by the fact that 4 to 5 or 3 to 5. What am I gonna do? Okay, how many? Okay, well, if you draw one that is black, the other one is white, then the third one, it would be either black or white. Then you have a pair of the same color. So the answer is 3. Is that right? All right. Another famous question is that water lilies in a pond are double in area every 24 hours. Okay. At the beginning of the summer, there is one water lily on the lake. It takes 60 days for the lake to become covered with water lilies. On what day was the lake one half covered? There was only one water lily in the lake. After 60 days, it is full. So the question is, on what day was the lake one half covered? Okay. Of course, here some people think, okay, every 24 hours, that calculate out. That is very complicated, is that right? Then some people will just say, well, day 59, day 59 and a half, next day it would be fully covered. Is that right? So that's what Sternberg's idea about contextual intelligence. Now I'll read you a joke. Okay, I'll read you a joke. Okay, from Sternberg. There was a boy who worked in the produce section of the market. A man came in and asked to buy. Now you have to forgive my language. Go on. I assume you do. Okay. Now there was the boy who worked in the produce section of the market. A man came in and asked to buy half a head of lettuce. The boy told him that they only sold whole heads of lettuce. But the man replied that he did not need a whole head, but only a half a head. The boy said he would go ask his manager about the matter. The boy walked into the back room and said, there is some asshole out there who wants to buy only half a head of lettuce. As he was finishing saying this, he turned around to find the man standing right behind him. Problem. So he added, and this gentleman wants to buy the other half. You see? So the manager okayed the deal and the man went on his way. See? This is what? Contextual intelligence, right? You could think on the time. Now, later, the manager called on the boy and said, you almost got yourself in a lot of trouble earlier. But I must say, I was impressed with the way you got yourself out of it. You think on your feet, and we like that around here. Where are you from, son? The boy replied, the US, sir. Oh, really? Why did you leave the state? Asked the manager. The boy replied, they are all just whores and basketball players down there. And what? And the manager said, my wife is from the States. Is in trouble again. But then the boy calmly replied, really? What team did she play for? This is this is beautiful, isn't it? This is beautiful. And this is contextual intelligence, right? Isn't that beautiful? Okay, all right. So don't ever give up. Now, take a look at this here. I want to talk about the stability of IQ. So that it will shed light on the notion of nature versus nurture. Is IQ inherited, or is it Is it due to the environment? Is it due to the environment? Now, take a look here. Okay. Here, this is correlation coefficient. Here is very low correlation. See, here is pretty high, 0.8, 0.7, and so on. Okay, you see higher and higher here. Okay, now unrelated persons reared apart and reared together. You see here, reared apart correlation is almost non-existent. Reared together about 0.2, 0.3 correlation. Okay, so they are somehow related. Foster parent-child, you know what that means. And parent-child is here, blood related, here not blood related. Now, previously it shows us that environment plays a role. Here, heredity, is that right? Blood related, look at how closely they are related, about 0.5, okay? See here, no blood relationship. All right, see, look at siblings, reared apart, reared together. Reared together a little bit higher than reared apart because of same blood flowing in their veins, is that right? So that's heredity. Look at two egg twins, okay? Two egg twins, two sperms and two eggs. So opposite sex, like sex, they're the same. They're the same. So it points to point to blood, is that right? But then what? Look at what one egg twins, monopsychotic, one egg twins. They what? They grow up. They grow up together inside the womb. Is that right? They grow up together. Same nutrients, same everything. Okay, same DNA and all that. Okay, we're apart here. We're together. More related with what we're the part. Is that right? So this points to environment. So all in all, it tells us that what? That intelligence is a function of what? Is a function of heredity, of course, as you can see here, heredity, environment. Okay, environment. Look here. Okay, we're together. Environment, and of course time. Because what? See what we just covered Piaget, what's intellectual development stage theories. There are a lot of stage theories in psychology. Okay? Stage means what? Time is a very important factor, right? Time is a very important factor. All right. So the video is a bit too long. I will stop here.